Houthi attacks escalate, Red Sea ceasefire in ruins amid rising tensions. In recent weeks, Houthi rebel forces have significantly escalated their attacks in the Red Sea, effectively shattering any notion of a lasting ceasefire. President Donald Trump had recently claimed success in brokering a truce with the Houthis, but the fragile nature of that agreement is now unmistakably clear. So why the sudden resurgence in hostilities? The answer lies in a complex web of regional power dynamics, ideological aspirations, and opportunistic timing. The Houthis, far from being a purely domestic insurgent group, are seeking a larger role on the geopolitical stage. With Hezbollah currently weakened, the Houthis see an opportunity to step into the spotlight and become the primary face of the so-called Axis of Resistance, Iran's coalition of aligned militias pushing back against Western and Israeli influence across the Middle East. This vision isn't just rhetorical. The Houthis have adopted increasingly aggressive tactics to assert their relevance, targeting international shipping lanes in the Red Sea, a critical artery for global trade. These attacks are part of a broader strategy to demonstrate deterrence and to pressure Western powers, especially the US and the UK, whom they view as key enablers of Israeli actions in Gaza and elsewhere. While the Trump-era ceasefire represented a momentary lull in conflict, it was never a true resolution. At best, it was a temporary arrangement influenced by Iran's own desire to de-escalate at the time. But the Houthis have treated that pause as just one tactical step in a longer campaign. To them, this is not the end of a war, it's simply the beginning of a new round. The Houthis' current wave of attacks is also meant to send a message to Gulf monarchies. They are not to be dismissed. Far from being a disorganized militia, they are positioning themselves as a formidable regional force. With war still raging in Gaza, the Houthis are capitalizing on the moment to assert themselves as central players in the resistance against Israel and Western influence. Their military tactics have evolved. Recent attacks on ships, including the high-profile strike on the Eternity Sea, showcase their use of drones and underwater explosives, methods that go beyond simple harassment and now represent a real threat to maritime security. Their propaganda videos, often highly produced, are designed to inspire supporters, instill fear in enemies, and project a narrative of power and precision. The sinking of the Eternity Sea wasn't just a military act, it was a media spectacle. The use of controlled explosives to sink the vessel, followed by the dramatic release of drone footage, signals a new phase in Houthi warfare. This isn't an isolated act of aggression, it's psychological warfare. It boosts morale among their base while reinforcing their image as a legitimate, organized military force. The hostage-taking during this attack, where 6 individuals were seized, marks another alarming shift in their approach. The Houthis are now emulating Iran's long-standing tactic of using hostages as bargaining chips. This method has historically proven effective for Iran, yielding diplomatic concessions and leverage over Western nations. It's clear the Houthis have learned well. So how directly involved is Iran in all of this? While the Houthis are often described as Iranian proxies, that term oversimplifies a much deeper relationship. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, maintains a strategic partnership with the Houthis. Tehran may not micromanage their daily operations, but it provides significant ideological, logistical, and technological support. For Iran, the Houthis serve 3 strategic purposes: applying pressure on Saudi Arabia from the south, challenging Riyadh's religious authority, and keeping any potential military conflicts away from Iranian soil by outsourcing them to allied groups like the Houthis. The risk of broader escalation is very real. Gulf nations, particularly Saudi Arabia, are caught in a tenuous pause in their conflict with the Houthis. While both sides may be trying to avoid renewed all-out war, everyone acknowledges that the conflict could reignite at any moment. And if Houthi attacks begin targeting vital oil infrastructure again, regional powers may feel compelled to respond forcefully. Meanwhile, the civil war in Yemen remains unresolved. Western powers may pretend otherwise, but the underlying tensions persist. The illusion of peace has merely delayed the inevitable. And as long as the Houthis control large swaths of territory along Yemen's western coast, they'll continue to disrupt maritime trade routes and regional stability. So what can the international community do? Deploying military assets to the Red Sea is a start, but it's far from sufficient. The real issue lies on land. Western policies in 2018 and 2019 missed a critical opportunity to oust the Houthis from their coastal strongholds. Instead, well-meaning ceasefires inadvertently strengthened the group, allowing them to regroup and expand their influence. To truly neutralize the threat, a coordinated strategy is needed, one that includes not just deterrence at sea, but a serious reconsideration of political and military approaches on the ground in Yemen. Simply relying on airstrikes won't work. The Houthis are adept at surviving aerial bombardments, especially given Yemen's mountainous terrain, which provides natural cover. What they genuinely fear is losing territory. Unless they are faced with a credible threat of territorial loss, they are unlikely to shift course. They must feel that their power base is vulnerable. At the same time, there's a place for diplomacy. Dialogue has already occurred through intermediaries like Oman, and there may be space for further negotiations. But diplomacy without leverage is unlikely to succeed. Only when the Houthis see a real risk to their territorial and political dominance will they consider meaningful compromises. It's important to remember that the Houthis rule with an iron fist. Their governance model is deeply repressive, relying on fear, imprisonment, and the suppression of dissent. They do not enjoy broad-based popular support. Rather, they maintain control through coercion. Thousands of Yemenis remain imprisoned simply for criticizing the group's leadership. This isn't a freedom movement, it's an authoritarian regime in the making. And make no mistake, the Houthis are no longer just rebels. They've established a regime with territory, institutions, and a clear long-term vision. They see themselves not just as rulers of part of Yemen, but as regional players, successors to Hezbollah in their role as the dominant Iranian-backed force. Iran supports this vision, seeing the Houthis as a strategic asset to project power and distract international attention from Tehran's own activities. Are they as militarily capable as Hezbollah or Hamas? Not yet, but they are rapidly building those capabilities. They have the terrain, the resources, and the backing to become a major force. And unlike in the early days of the Yemen war, the Houthis now see themselves not as survivors, but as ascendants. This is their moment. And unless the world takes the threat seriously, the Red Sea crisis may only be the beginning of something far larger.